Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ben the Source Skater, and I have my lovely assistant Pascal here today. Today, I want to share with you an exercise I do all the time. I consider it foundational, basic, but very important. It can help you strengthen your core, the tops of your thighs, so your hip flexor area, and then your inner thighs. And it can also teach you how to have all these muscles work together, coordinate with one another, which is really important for skateboarders, because as skateboarders we're constantly making our muscles work together in these complex ways. So great exercise for all of those things. There's 3 versions of the exercise. I would recommend you try all 3, but once you've tried all 3, maybe a few times, maybe you'll find one that's your favorite, or maybe one day you're more in the mood for one, another day you're in another mood for a different one. So just try all 3 versions, see which one you like best. Generally, the 3rd version is the most difficult as far as strength building and challenging yourself goes, but the 1st version can help you master some of those basics and can be great for challenging yourself mentally and developing the mind-body connection. So without further ado, let's get started. You might call this exercise hands to thighs, although in the 1st version, we don't even put our hands on our thighs. So you'll lie down on your back and then bring your knees directly above your hips, and you can have your feet stick straight out. And in this 1st version of the exercise, I like to have my hands on my stomach, and then I start breathing deeply in the nose and out the nose. On some days, you may prefer to breathe in the nose and out the mouth, maybe if you have a stuffy nose or something. And as you do this, start to tighten your core. So you might, on the exhales, pull your belly button down towards your back. And then on the inhales, as you're breathing in, push the stomach outwards, expand the stomach in the rib cage area. I like having my hands on my stomach here to experience that stomach expansion a little more and feel it more purposefully, although if you have a cat on you, it'll probably do the same thing. And in this position, you may find that as you tighten your core, your back makes more contact with the ground, and that should be like a side effect. You don't want to force the back toward the ground, but it can be kind of interesting to notice how as you tighten the core, your back touches the ground more so. And see if you can find a nice middle ground between breathing deeply, evenly, and maybe even easefully, and tightening your core. I'm going to take a quick break for a second, just put the legs down. If you haven't done this kind of exercise before, it may be difficult to engage the core while breathing. You might find that as you tighten the core more, your breathing becomes restricted, or you may find that as you focus on your breath, you lose the engagement in the core. So try to find a middle ground there, and as you practice more and more, that becomes easier. So let's come back up into it again. Once again, knees directly above the hips, feet kind of sticking straight out like that, hands on the belly, breathing in deeply while keeping the core engaged. Now, the 2nd version of this exercise is where you do put your hands on the top of your thighs. And then you can start by doing this lightly, and then maybe over the course of a few breaths, intensify, but push your thighs into your hands, and then use your hands to resist the thighs. So in the end, the thighs stay in the same place, but you're starting to engage the tops of the thighs to push this way. And you'll notice that the harder you push your thighs and hands together, the more intense the squeeze in the core becomes, the harder you have to squeeze in the core. So now we're trying to find a middle ground between 3 things. We're trying to keep the core engaged, we're trying to breathe deeply, evenly, and as in control as possible, and we're also trying to push the hands and the thighs together. So maybe you do this for a total of 3 to 5 breaths, preferably long and slow breaths if you can. And we can rest the legs, take another break, maybe shake the legs out if you feel it. When we move into the final version of this exercise, we will use a prop. So if you have a yoga block, get a yoga block. Yoga blocks are awesome for a lot of different purposes. If you can, I would recommend getting 2 for yourself because they are very helpful for a lot of different exercises. But if you don't have a yoga block, you can still do the last version of this exercise by finding something similar in size, weight, etc. So maybe you use a shoebox, maybe you use a small cushion, you know, whatever you got lying around the house. You could probably use a roll of paper towels. You can get creative with it. So if you don't have a yoga block, maybe pause the video for a second and go find something similar size and shape, and then I'll show you what to do with them. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, your second's up. So moving into the pose, we're going to start by bringing our body into the same posture essentially, but then take that block or whatever you have and stick it between your legs. Put the hands on top of the thighs. Start by breathing deeply while engaging the core. Trying to expand the stomach in the rib area, make it bigger on the inhale as you breathe in, and then contract them, press the belly button towards the back on the exhale. Then start to lightly push the thighs into the hands and the hands back into the thighs. And then also start to lightly squeeze your block or obstacle of choice in between your legs to create that inner thigh tension. So now we have 4 things to balance: the breath, the activation of the core, the activation of the upper thighs, and the activation of the inner thighs to squeeze in. And generally, you may relax your muscles a little bit on the inhale and then contract them a little bit more, make them work a little bit more on the exhale. And if your body starts to shake like mine does, that's okay. Whew. If you find it challenging to breathe as you exert all those muscles, that is also okay. That means you're working and developing strength, challenging yourself, and that is what will lead to progress. So those are the exercises you can do. A lot of the times I start my yoga sessions off with one version, whichever one I'm feeling the most during the day, or I may do, you know, the easier version on level 1, do some other pose, come back to level 2, do some other pose, then finish off with level 3. You know, there's a few ways you could work this into your routine, but I think it's a great place to start, especially if you're having like lower back and hip issues. It's an awesome way to get the core strong in a way that addresses the foundation of those issues, especially since you can get the hips working, get the legs working, and get them to coordinate with the core. It really helps out with all that. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and hope you have a wonderful day. Peace out.